So, I'm a coffee addict. I drink at least a pot of coffee every day. I've been addicted to coffee since I was a teenager, which was a very long time ago. So, I know the importance of keeping your coffee maker properly descaled. Okay, I know some of you are just here to get straight to the instructions on how to actually make a cheap, non-vinegar descaler. For the impatient folks out there, I'll give you the time to fast forward to in my video. First, just watch a 10-second clip from my sponsor, then I promise to flash it up on the screen afterwards. As promised, here's the timestamp for all you impatient folks to fast forward to. It's all good though. For the rest of you who don't want to just take my word on why I think my descaler method is the best homemade option, I'll give you my entire backstory about my rationale and my research. For many years, I've always descaled my coffee makers with a 50-50 mix of vinegar and water. However, in recent years, I've become more of a coffee snob. Nowadays, I buy the quote-unquote fancier coffee makers like Keurigs and Nespressos. I currently own a Keurig K-Duo, in fact. The problem with the fancier coffee makers, though, is they are a bit more finicky to clean properly because their internal components are a bit more complicated. The vinegar I used to use on my standard coffee makers didn't really seem to do as well on the fancier ones. I mean, it worked, but the performance and taste seemed to decline over time, even though I was regularly descaling it with vinegar. I'm sort of a cheapskate, so I resisted buying the name brand Keurig descaler for a long time. However, given the lack of performance with the vinegar descaler, I finally decided to break down and buy the name brand Keurig descaler. Honestly, it worked much better than the vinegar as far as improving the coffee taste. Currently, you can buy one bottle for about $9 at Walmart. But $9 per descaling is a lot, and the cheapskate in me couldn't resist trying to find a cheaper way to make my own descaling solution. So I started with the ingredients on the Keurig's descaler. The only ingredient listed there was citric acid. Now I know this is not the only ingredient in Keurig's descaling solutions since I looked up the safety data sheet on it. But some of the other ingredients are a bit more expensive and the exact concentrations weren't given since they're trade secrets. However, I figured I'd try to make the next best practical citric acid descaler that I could easily make. I had heard of other people using citric acid as a descaler, but I thought it might be expensive. However, I was able to find it on Amazon at $10 for a 2-pound bag. I'm sure some of you might even be able to find it cheaper elsewhere. Basically, if you use 4 tablespoons per descaling, that means you could descale your coffee maker 15 times at a cost of about 67 cents each time. The only downside is that the bag states that it expires 3 years after it's been opened. That means you can only do 12 descales from that bag before it technically expires. I'll probably just stick to buying a 1-pound bag in the future at a slightly higher cost per descaling. Now let's make a quick comparison with the cost of vinegar. Right now I can buy a gallon of vinegar at my local Walmart for $3.94. I can get just over 4 descalings out of it, costing about 92 cents per descaling at this price. Given this price, it's more expensive than citric acid, but since the prices for both are variable, I'll just say that the cost per descaling is roughly the same between the two. Keep in mind that all my previous measurements and costs are based on descaling a 12-cup Keurig coffee maker, but it's basically going to end up being the same overall cost for the single-serve Keurig bottles. Now let's try to figure out which one of the two descalers actually works the best. Short of some lengthy testing and some extreme chemistry, this is going to be hard to prove definitively. I decided to get Google's AI involved in helping me do this. Not 100% authoritative, but it's better than just taking my word on it. I set the AI for detailed research mode. It compiled information from over 100 different websites, which took it about 20 minutes. It compared 4 different homemade descalers, including citric acid and vinegar. When it was done, its conclusion, based on the general consensus of all the different websites out there, was that citric acid is a better overall descaler as compared to vinegar and 2 other homemade descalers. What's on the screen now is a summary of what it came up with. Given my personal experience and my research, I'm fairly confident in saying that citric acid is both the cheapest and most effective homemade descaler. I'm almost ready to show you how I make my own citric acid descaler, but since there are various types of citric acid out there, you need to know exactly what types will work and which ones won't. Very, very important. Make sure it's food grade citric acid. The non-food grade kind has impurities in it and could be toxic. Also, make sure that it's either fine grain, fine powder, or standard powder texture. Also, I suggest not buying the granule texture as it takes longer to dissolve in water. I found this particular citric acid on Amazon, and I'll put the link to it in this video's description. Next, there are a few safety concerns with citric acid, just like with most other household cleaners. First and most important, be careful not to get citric acid solution in your eyes. If you do, irrigate your eyes immediately with water. The way I'm going to show you how to mix it up later should make that possibility less likely. Second, if you have any type of severe respiratory condition, such as asthma or bronchitis, you should be in a well-ventilated area when using citric acid because the dust and even the fumes could make you cough. Third, citric acid is a minor skin irritant even in powdered form. It's not that bad, but if you get it on your skin, just wash it off as soon as you can. Finally, as with most other household cleaners, keep it out of reach from small children and pets. Now I'm going to show you how I mix up the descaler for the Carafe model first, then I'll show you what's different for the single pod model. You're going to need a tablespoon and something to mix the solution in. I use my Carafe to mix it, but you could use a measuring cup or even the reservoir. Totally up to you. First, you're going to start with about 30 fluid ounces of warm water. That's about 890 milliliters, by the way. Use warm water as it mixes a little faster. I'd suggest you use filtered water if possible, but tap water should work almost as well. Mix in 4 tablespoons of citric acid, or about 55 to 60 grams, however you measure it. I like mixing mine up in the Carafe itself. When using the Carafe to mix it, I found it's easiest just to swirl the water around in the Carafe in a circular motion until it's mixed. You can tell it's mixed enough when you lift it up and look at the bottom. If most of the citric acid is mixed in, you shouldn't see any residue at the bottom. However you mix it up, just make sure the citric acid solution is well mixed. Once mixed up, add another 30 fluid ounces of water to the solution. In my case, I just pour what I've already mixed up in the Carafe into the reservoir. Then I fill the reservoir the rest of the way up with 30 ounces of regular water. Now for the single pod models, you could mix it up in the reservoir itself or use a measuring cup. Mix in 1 tablespoon of citric acid with about 8 fluid ounces of water, which is about 235 milliliters. Once mixed, pour the solution in the reservoir and then add another 8 ounces of regular water. That's it. You're ready to descale. I'm not going to go through all the steps to descale in detail because it may vary a little depending on your model. Basically, with my Duo, I start with the pod side, running a full 12-ounce cycle. Then I run a full 12-cup brewing cycle on the carafe side, but I stop it when the carafe is about half full. Then I let it sit in the tank for about an hour. After an hour, I empty everything out. Then I run 2 or 3 more cleansing brew cycles with regular water. It's almost the same for the single cup Keurig model, except that I run a full 12-ounce brew cycle without stopping it. I still let what's left over sit in the reservoir for about an hour. Then I run 2 or 3 cleansing brews with regular water. There's one last thing that I think it's important to mention. It's quite possible if you're descaling a K-Duo model that during the first descaling run on the carafe side, you may run into the same problem that I sometimes do. Mine doesn't always want to run until the carafe reaches the halfway mark at 6 cups. You may need to keep restarting the 12-cup brewing cycle multiple times until you can get the carafe up to 6 cups before you let it sit for an hour. This may be because it really needed descaling, or it might be because your water is softened like mine. Either way, be patient and keep running the descaling cycle over and over again. Also, during the subsequent cleansing run, it may not want to fill all the way. However, mine always gets better and better as I run more cleansing brews through it. In fact, mine usually starts to go back to normal about halfway through the first cleansing run. If you still have problems with your carafe filling up all the way after descaling it, and you have a Keurig K-Duo and a whole house water softener installed, then you may want to check out my link at the end of this video. It'll show you a quick hack that might fix this problem for you. Since you've already watched this video, I'll even flash the timestamp on the screen to skip to in the video to save you some time. I hope this video helped you. If it did, drop me a like. If you have any questions or if you had any problems with my method, post them in the comments along with your Keurig model. Again, you can click here if you want to watch my other video about a special Keurig K-Duo hack. If you'd like to see what else I can come up with in the future, then subscribe to my channel.